Let's be honest, just hearing the word Illuminati triggers something in most of us. Some might chuckle, others might get curious, and a few might even feel a chill down their spine. It's one of those names that instantly evokes mystery, secrecy, and the idea that maybe, just maybe, someone out there is pulling the strings. But is any of it real? Or are we just playing into an elaborate myth that has grown wildly out of proportion? In a world where we're constantly bombarded by information, conspiracy theories often thrive. And among all the names floating around in shadowy corners of the internet, one stands out: the Illuminati. Supposedly, it's an elite group that controls world events from the shadows, influencing everything from governments to pop culture. But where did this idea come from? What's the truth behind it all? Is it a historical organization that somehow evolved into something more? Or is it pure fiction, a fascinating story that people just can't stop telling? This journey isn't about proving anything for sure. Instead, it's an open invitation to think, to explore, and to question. We're not here to convince anyone. We're here to ask, what if? And what does that say about the world we live in? So take a deep breath. Let go of what you think you know. And let's dive into a story that blends fact, fear, and fascination. Because whether real or imagined, the idea of the Illuminati has shaped the way we see power, secrecy, and control. Ready? Let's begin. The story begins, perhaps unsurprisingly, in the heart of Europe during the Age of Enlightenment, a time of radical thought, philosophy, and a slow but powerful rebellion against religious dogma and monarchic control. It was the 18th century, and people were starting to believe that maybe the world could be ruled by reason, not just by faith or fear. This shift, as subtle and slow as it was, created the perfect conditions for secret societies to emerge, groups that challenged the status quo but had to do so behind closed doors. One such group formed in 1776 in Bavaria, Germany. Its founder, a professor named Adam Weishaupt. He was a man frustrated with the church's grip on education and the political landscape. So he decided to create a group that could promote freedom of thought, scientific reasoning, and moral progress. He called it the Illuminati, meaning the enlightened ones. It sounds dramatic, sure, but at the time it was just another attempt to bring intellectuals together in secret so they could talk about ideas that might have gotten them in trouble otherwise. In its early days, the Illuminati wasn't powerful. It wasn't even particularly large. But it did grow quickly. It attracted thinkers, writers, and even politicians who liked the idea of a society that could challenge traditional power structures from the inside. Members had nicknames, secret codes, and rituals. It all sounds a bit theatrical now, but it was serious business for them. However, it didn't take long before the Illuminati caught the attention of those in charge. By 1785, the Bavarian government had enough. They cracked down on secret societies, outlawed the Illuminati, and tried to erase every trace of their existence. Documents were seized, members were interrogated, and the group was officially shut down. And that should have been the end of the story, right? Well, not quite, because here's where things start to get interesting, and where history starts to blend with legend. Although the Illuminati was supposedly disbanded, whispers began to circulate that they had just gone deeper underground, that instead of disappearing, they had evolved, that they had infiltrated other powerful groups like the Freemasons and had started working in the shadows to influence world events. This is the moment when fact starts to melt into fiction. Over time, stories about the Illuminati became more dramatic, more outrageous, and frankly more entertaining. By the time the 19th century rolled around, the group had already become a kind of mythological villain in the minds of many. Writers and political theorists began blaming them for revolutions, assassinations, and social upheaval. They were supposedly everywhere and nowhere at the same time. Fast forward to the 20th century, and things took another leap. As mass media evolved, the Illuminati found a new home: pop culture. Suddenly they were being referenced in movies, books, songs, and TV shows. From science fiction to thrillers, the Illuminati became the go-to explanation for anything mysterious, powerful, or unexplainable. Secret hand gestures, triangle symbols, the infamous all-seeing eye. These visuals became part of a shared cultural language. People didn't need to be historians to recognize the supposed signs of Illuminati influence. But here's the real twist. The more people talked about the Illuminati, the more powerful the idea became, even if the actual group had long since vanished. It didn't matter whether there was any proof, the belief itself became the force. And once an idea gets that kind of grip on the public imagination, it starts to reshape the way we see the world. You might be thinking, okay, but why do people still believe in them today? Good question, and the answer is as psychological as it is historical. Humans love patterns. We crave explanations. And in a world that often feels chaotic, the idea of a secret group controlling everything from behind the scenes actually brings a strange kind of comfort. It means there's a plan. It means that even if we don't understand everything, someone does. The irony is that this belief in control, while it might help some people make sense of things, also makes us more paranoid. We start seeing symbols in music videos, hidden messages in dollar bills, and secret meanings in every headline. It's a mental game, and it feeds itself. The more you look, the more you think you see, and the more you think you see, the more convinced you become. But let's not be too quick to judge. After all, distrust in those who hold power isn't new. It's not irrational to ask questions or to be skeptical of governments, corporations, or the media. The problem starts when the questions turn into conclusions without evidence, when healthy curiosity becomes obsession. Still, there's something undeniably fascinating about it all. The idea that maybe, just maybe, there is a network of elites controlling everything. That thought lingers in the back of our minds. And even if we don't fully believe it, we can't help but be drawn in by the possibility. So we re-left with this odd paradox. The Illuminati may not exist as a real organization today, but the idea of them is more alive than ever. And maybe that's the real power here. Not in secret meetings or shadowy plans, but in the way a single idea can take hold of millions of minds across generations. Because once an idea becomes part of culture, part of the stories we tell, it stops needing proof. It becomes a symbol, a myth, and a mirror. And what it reflects back to us isn't just fear. It is something deeper, a need to understand the forces that shape our lives, and a desire to feel like someone somewhere is in control, even if it's someone we can't see. Let us step back for a second and ask ourselves, why do we even care about the Illuminati in the first place? It's not like we see people in suits running around with badges that say, "Hi, I control the world." So what is it about this idea that has managed to survive for over 2 centuries? The truth is, we're drawn to mystery. We love stories that make us feel like we've uncovered something hidden, especially when it feels like everyone else is still in the dark. That feeling of being in on it is powerful. But there's more to it. In a world where institutions have failed us again and again, financial crashes, political scandals, tech monopolies, wars, it's not surprising that people start looking for explanations. And sometimes those explanations point toward a group in the shadows, calling the shots. When the official story doesn't add up, we start writing our own. Now here's where it gets tricky. Once the seed of suspicion is planted, everything becomes potential evidence. A celebrity covers one eye on a magazine cover. Illuminati. A triangle in a music video. Illuminati. A political leader rises too fast or dies too suddenly. Illuminati. It's like putting on a pair of glasses that show hidden symbols everywhere, even if they're not actually there. And that's where pop culture really kicks in. Over the years, movies, shows, and books have taken this idea and run with it. Films like Angels and Demons, National Treasure, and countless thrillers use the Illuminati as the perfect villain. Powerful, invisible, and always 10 steps ahead. The symbol of the pyramid with the all-seeing eye, once a curious feature on the back of the dollar bill, has become a global icon of conspiracy. Let's pause on that symbol for a moment. The pyramid with the eye. Most people think it's proof of some ancient connection to secret societies, but actually, it was added to the US dollar in the 1930s as part of the Great Seal, meant to symbolize divine guidance and the idea that the new nation was being watched over by a higher power. It wasn't meant to be sinister, But once it became associated with secret societies, especially the Freemasons, it didn't take long for people to connect it with the Illuminati too. And what about the Freemasons? Are they part of all this? That's a rabbit hole all on its own. The Freemasons are a real organization, one of the oldest fraternal orders in the world. They have rituals, symbols, and a lot of secrecy, which naturally made them a magnet for conspiracy theories. In fact, after the Illuminati were disbanded in the late 1700s, some claimed they simply merged into Masonic lodges. That theory stuck, and to this day many people believe the Freemasons and the Illuminati are part of the same network of global influence. But again, there's a big gap between what's documented and what's imagined. Most Freemasons are regular people who attend meetings, organize charity events, and discuss moral principles, not exactly world domination. But the lack of transparency invites speculation, and in the absence of facts, imagination fills the void. That's one of the most interesting things about this whole topic. It's not just about whether the Illuminati exist or not. It's about how human beings react to uncertainty. When something strange happens, an unexpected death, a sudden war, a financial collapse, we want answers. We want to believe there's a reason. And if the official explanation feels weak or incomplete, the mind starts searching for deeper truths. So what happens when millions of people start believing in the same invisible enemy? It creates a culture of doubt, of suspicion. And that's not always a bad thing. Questioning authority is healthy. Being curious is good. But when every powerful person becomes a suspect, and every event is a sign, we risk falling into a loop where nothing feels real anymore, where everything is part of the conspiracy. And that kind of mindset can be dangerous. Think about it. If you believe the world is controlled by a secret group, then what's the point of trying to change anything? Why vote? Why protest? Why hope? It breeds a kind of hopelessness. It can also divide people. Conspiracy theories often point fingers at governments, at minorities, at entire industries. And that division feeds fear. But let's not forget, there are real secrets in the world, real corruption, real backroom deals. So again, the question isn't to whether people are right to be suspicious. It is whether their suspicion is being directed at something real or just imagined. There's another layer here too, one that touches on our psychology. The idea of the Illuminati gives us a kind of comfort in chaos. If a small group controls the world, then at least there's order, right? It's not all random. It's not meaningless. Someone is in control. And even if that someone is malevolent, it still feels better than the idea that no one else in charge and we're all just drifting through the storm. So we cling to the myth, not just because we believe it, but because it fills a gap between what we see and what we understand, between what we're told and what we feel. And here's where things get even more fascinating. Some people think the Illuminati myth is actually being used on purpose, to distract us, to keep us chasing shadows while the real power plays out in the open. While we search for triangles in music videos, billionaires rewrite laws, tech companies reshape society, and global powers manipulate economies, maybe the real Illuminati is just capitalism, or unchecked influence, or the slow erosion of truth. In that case, the myth becomes a smokescreen, a game of mirrors, a way to keep us entertained and distracted while the real problems grow bigger right under our noses. But maybe that's too cynical. Maybe the truth is simpler. Maybe the Illuminati doesn't exist. Maybe it's just a fascinating story that reflects our deepest fears and our most burning questions. Questions like, who's really in charge? Why does the world feel so unfair? And how much control do we actually have? Because that's the question at the heart of it all, isn't it? Control. Who has it? Who wants it? And do we, the people, still have any of it left? If we really want to understand the pull of the Illuminati myth, we have to dive deeper into how stories shape reality. Humans are storytelling creatures. We build our understanding of the world not just through facts, but through narratives. It's easier to believe that there's a hidden script to history, written by unseen hands, than to accept that chaos and coincidence rule most of what happens around us. In a way, believing in the Illuminati is an attempt to make sense of nonsense. It is our way of trying to find order in a universe that often feels anything but ordered. When something enormous happens, a revolution, a sudden death, a technological leap, our minds instinctively search for causes that match the size of the event. This is called proportionality bias. If the outcome is massive, the cause must be equally massive, right? So instead of accepting that random factors, small mistakes or unpredictable movements of society might have led to a major event, we imagine that some master puppeteers were behind it all along. This bias isn't stupidity, it's survival. Throughout human history, seeing patterns even where none existed often helped people survive. Hearing rustling in the bushes and assuming it was a predator might have saved lives even if it was just the wind. Our brains evolved to look for patterns, and sometimes they find them where there's nothing there. Apply that to the modern world, and you see how easy it is for the mind to build connections. A famous singer flashes a hand gesture on stage. A billionaire makes a cryptic comment in an interview. A politician's speech seems strangely aligned with an ancient symbol. Suddenly, it all clicks, because our brains want it to click. And once the pattern is seen, it's almost impossible to unsee it. Pop culture feeds into this loop constantly. Music videos, fashion campaigns, even corporate logos are sprinkled with triangles, eyes, and other symbols that conspiracy theorists point to as proof. Sometimes it's intentional. Artists love to flirt with mystery because it keeps audiences talking. Other times it's pure coincidence. But once people are primed to see Illuminati influence everywhere, even innocent gestures take on sinister meanings. Let's not forget how the internet supercharged this phenomenon. In the past, conspiracy theories spread slowly, whispered from person to person. Today, a single video can go viral and reach millions within hours. Memes simplify complex ideas into easy-to-share images. Short clips strip away context, leaving only the most dramatic or suspicious-looking details. And once you fall into one of these digital rabbit holes, algorithms happily keep feeding you more of the same. It creates a self-reinforcing bubble. You start to see connections everywhere, and the more you see, the more you believe. It's addictive, it's exciting, and it gives you a sense of belonging to a community that knows the truth while everyone else stays blind. But here is where the danger lies. Once you are deep enough into this way of thinking, reality itself starts to warp. Every denial becomes part of the cover-up. Every lack of evidence becomes proof of how good they are at hiding. Logic twists itself into knots, and breaking free becomes harder and harder. This is not just theoretical. We've seen it happen with real-world movements that began with small doubts and grew into massive communities, fueled by suspicion and mistrust. In some cases, people have lost friends, family, even jobs, because their belief in an all-powerful secret society consumed their view of the world. And yet we can't entirely dismiss these instincts, because again, history is full of real conspiracies. Governments have lied, corporations have covered up harm, institutions have manipulated information for their own gain. The difference is that real conspiracies are usually messy, chaotic, and often exposed by whistleblowers or journalists, not by cryptic symbols hidden in pop videos. Real power doesn't need to hide behind ancient symbols. It operates in boardrooms, in courtrooms, in newsrooms. It passes laws, influences policies, and shapes economies openly, because most people aren't looking there. They're too busy searching for pyramids on the back of dollar bills. And maybe that's the most ironic part. In chasing after the fantasy of a secret elite, we sometimes ignore the very real structures of power that affect our lives every day. We get caught up in the spectacle and forget to pay attention to the boring but important details. Legislation, corporate mergers, media ownership, lobbying. If there is a modern version of the Illuminati, it's not necessarily a group of robed figures chanting in secret chambers. It's the quiet collusion between power, money, and influence that shapes our world while we look the other way. That's not to say that secret societies don't exist. They do, always have. Humans naturally form exclusive groups, whether it's for power, protection, or prestige. But the idea that there's one singular, all-controlling Illuminati, orchestrating everything, that idea serves a purpose too. It simplifies a complex world into a single villain. It gives us someone or something to blame, because blaming a hidden enemy feels a lot easier than confronting a system that's messy, unfair, and often indifferent to individual suffering. It's easier to believe there's a plan than to accept that sometimes bad things happen without reason. And yet, there's a strange kind of hope hidden inside the conspiracy myth. If the Illuminati truly were behind everything, then maybe, just maybe, exposing them could change the world. Maybe if we uncovered the truth, we could set things right. That belief in hidden villains is, in a strange way, also a belief in the possibility of hidden heroes. It's a very human thing. To hope, to search, to believe that truth matters and that uncovering it can make a difference. So maybe, in the end, the story of the Illuminati says less about secret elites and more about us, about our endless hunger for meaning, for justice, and for control in a world that often denies us all three. By now it's clear that the idea of the Illuminati is bigger than any one group, bigger than any one story. It's a mirror we hold up to our fears, our doubts, and our deepest questions about the world. But if we really want to go even deeper, we have to ask, what does believing or not believing in the Illuminati say about the kind of world we want? If you believe the Illuminati controls everything, that belief brings a strange kind of order. It means that even the worst events, wars, recessions, political chaos, are not accidents. They are part of a plan. A bad plan, maybe, but still a plan. And that brings a certain comfort because randomness is terrifying. Chaos is unbearable. We want to believe that somewhere, somehow, someone is steering the ship, even if they're steering it toward disaster. On the other hand, rejecting the idea of the Illuminati forces us to accept something much scarier, that sometimes no one is in control. That human history is a mess of conflicting interests, accidents, failures, and blind ambition. That powerful people exist, yes, but they're just as flawed, short-sighted, and human as the rest of us. They don't need to be part of an ancient secret society to make terrible decisions. Sometimes all it takes is greed, pride, or fear. In a way, both views are unsettling. But maybe unsettling is good. Maybe unsettling means we're thinking critically instead of blindly believing. Maybe unsettling forces us to stay alert, to question, to demand better from the people and systems that govern our lives. It's also worth asking, who benefits from the idea of the Illuminati? Who wins when people believe there's an unstoppable secret cabal controlling the world? Well, sometimes it's the powerful themselves. If people believe everything is hopelessly rigged, they're less likely to fight back. If you think your vote doesn't matter because shadowy elites have already decided everything, you're less likely to show up at the polls. If you believe protests are useless because they have already planned it all out, you're less likely to organize, to resist, to demand change. In that sense, the myth of the Illuminati can serve as a form of psychological control, not by secret handshakes or hidden symbols, but by creating a sense of helplessness and fatalism. If we think we've already lost, we stop trying to win. But the flip side is just as important. Knowing that real power often hides behind closed doors should make us more determined, not less. It should push us to ask harder questions, to seek transparency, to challenge systems that benefit the few at the expense of the many. It should inspire us to pay attention, to stay informed, to build communities that can resist manipulation. Because at the end of the day, the real danger isn't believing in the Illuminati. It's becoming so cynical, so paralyzed by suspicion, that we stop believing change is possible. And change is possible. Always has been. History is full of moments when regular people stood up against real, powerful forces, and won. Not because they exposed a secret society, but because they refused to give up. They demanded rights, justice, fairness, and little by little, they pushed the world forward. So maybe the real lesson here isn't about whether the Illuminati exist or not. Maybe the real lesson is about how we choose to respond to the idea of power itself. Do we hide behind conspiracy theories and give up hope? Or do we use our curiosity, our skepticism, and our desire for truth to fuel real action? The choice, as always, is ours. And here we are. After all these twists, questions, and reflections, you might still be wondering, is the Illuminati real? Or is it just a story we tell ourselves to make sense of a confusing world? Honestly, maybe it's a little of both. Maybe the Illuminati is real, not as a secret society of puppet masters, but as a symbol of the hidden forces that shape our lives every day. And maybe, by questioning it, by exploring it, by thinking critically about it, we become a little less vulnerable to those forces, a little more awake, a little more free. Because at the end of the day, the real power isn't in secret meetings or ancient symbols. The real power is in awareness, in curiosity, in the simple, stubborn refusal to stop asking questions. So stay curious, stay questioning, stay open. The truth is rarely easy, but the search for it, that's where the real magic happens. Thanks for walking this path with me. See you in the next story.